Hello my friends and welcome back to my channel. My name is Leonie and I just realized I feel like I don't say that often enough. I think I said it once and at the beginning of my first video and then never again. So to those of you that were wondering, my name is Leonie and this is my booktube channel. For today, I thought I would film the mid-year book freakout tag video that I've seen on a couple of other channels, and I thought it was so much fun. So I definitely wanted to record one for myself and also for me. Yeah, it's a great point in time to just reflect about the books that I read up to the middle of the year and see, what kind of surprises I had there and other things. We'll go over the questions later. But yeah, I know I'm a little bit late. It's already a couple of weeks past the end of June, but I hope you still enjoy. And yeah, I can't wait to go over these questions. So, question number one, what is the best book you've read so far this year? I don't know, this kind of question when it's asking for the best of something is usually very difficult to answer, but for some strange reason, it is very easy for me this year. This has never happened to me so far, but yes, I definitely have a clear favorite this year. And it is The Great Alone by Kristin. I read this book at the beginning of the year in January and I'm still thinking about it. It just, baffled me. I don't know, I was crying so much. It was a very emotional read for me. I think at least 5 times I sobbed. And it was just a fabulous story. It's historical fiction, so we're in Alaska in 1974, and if you love nature writing, so where there's a lot of nature described and you get really a feeling for the environment and you just picture yourself there and want to go there right away, I can recommend this. I mean, Alaska just looks so beautiful in this book. I definitely want to go. It's about Alaska. It is also a family drama. It has to do with domestic violence and how to free from that. It's about a little girl and her family and how she becomes a woman eventually and just about her fate. So if you've read Where the Crawdads Sing and you enjoyed it, I think you will definitely enjoy this one as well. So my clear favorite for the year. All right, question number 2. What's the best sequel you've read this year? I had to think long and hard about this question because there were just not very many sequels I read this year. And I had to dig deep and I only read one. So I can only talk about this one. It is One of Us Is Next by McManus. So it's the sequel to One of Us Is Lying. Both of these books are YA thrillers. And I really enjoyed One of Us Is Lying. It's taking place in a high school and there's 4 or 5 students in detention and one of them dies while in detention, so the other 4 become suspects. So I really enjoyed that story. The second book here, One of Us Is Next, I didn't think was that great. To me, it was not at the same level as One of Us Is Lying. So unfortunately, I don't have very great sequels for this year. I mean, I can tell you what this is about. It's also, we're again in high school and there is a truth or dare game that is going around in the school and different students are dared to do something crazy or give up some sort of truth about themselves. And at some point, this game turns deadly. So a great premise, but somehow for me, didn't live up to the first one. So that was the only sequel. But I did not want to leave this question on a low note, so I just wanted to say that in the second half of this year, I'm definitely going to read The Girl Who Played with Fire by Stieg Larsson, which is also the sequel, to The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And I have very high expectations for this one, and I think this will be a very, very great read. So I think this one will be my favorite at the end of the year. Question 3, a new release that you haven't read yet but want to. I have made a video earlier this year where I talked about some of the releases that I was excited about for this year, and one of them was Old Babes in the Woods by Margaret Atwood. And so this one is definitely still on my list. I want to read it before the year is over. It's a short story collection by the one and only Margaret Atwood, so the writer of Handmaid's Tale and those novels. I mean, you've got to love Margaret Atwood. I think she's a fantastic person, and I just would give anything to see her live at a reading. I've heard many things about her, and I think she's just a firecracker. So I would love to see her one day. But yeah, before that, I will read her book, Old Babes in the Woods. As I said, it's a short story collection, and the short stories all revolve around family and family relations, death, and how a relationship evolves over time. That's roughly what it is about. So we'll see. I hope I get to it later this year. Now, number 5 is what was the biggest disappointment this year? And the book that I chose for this question is actually not the book that I thought was the quote unquote worst, I hate the word, but the worst book that I read this year, but rather a book that I had very high expectations for and it just did not meet it at all. And I'm talking about The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. I mean, the cover is beautiful and the premise just sounded amazing, so that's why I picked this book up. It's a historical fiction novel, takes place in 18th century London, and it's about the so-called poison murders, apothecary murders, where back in time there was an apothecary who dispersed poison to women in need who had oppressive men in their lives, and they used that poison to kill these men. So the woman, the apothecary at the time, was never caught. So we have a double timeline in this story, and we are also in present day London, where we follow our main character who, is not at a great point in her life, who's just gone through a terrible breakup or is going through a terrible breakup. And she's kind of like trying to find herself. And in the course of doing that, she solves these murders, the murder mystery. So, I mean, the premise sounds great, and I did enjoy the story about the apothecary, but the present day story, so literally half of the book, just did not work for me at all. I did not like the character, I did not like how the plot was going, and so, unfortunately, big disappointment. I was excited also about another book about this author before I had read this book, and now I actually don't know if I'll pick it up. The other one was called, I think, London Seance Society. So if you've read that one and you thought it was good, let me know down below. Maybe I'll give her another chance because the premises, as I said, sound great. But as of right now, I don't know. All right, following the biggest disappointment of the year so far is the biggest surprise, which for me was Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I don't have the book on my shelf anymore because a friend gave it to me and I have returned it since. But that was the book. It's about a band, the Six, and a singer, Daisy Jones. And they're both very popular, and we're like in the old Hollywood era and see how they rise to stardom, how their paths eventually cross, how they become one of the most popular bands in the world, how they sell out concerts, and like love, drugs, rock and roll kind of thing. So if you're into that, the book will be for you. And I will say it was a big surprise for me because I did not have the biggest expectations, and part of it is due to the writing style of this book. I saw it was like written like, kind of like a dialogue. So the members of the band are being interviewed by the author of this book, and it's just, different answers are cut together, and so it reads kind of like a dialogue from these different interviews. I didn't think I would like it, but I loved it a lot. I know it's not maybe for everybody, this writing style. For me, it really worked. I felt like the story was very dynamic, very cool. So I loved that. And also Taylor Jenkins Reid, for me, so far, I didn't have a book from her that like blew my mind. I thought she's a good, solid author, but not like, I wasn't like over the moon for her books. And this is the first one where I thought, okay, this is really something special for me. Not 5 stars, but like I really enjoyed it. So that was a great surprise. All right, next up is the question, who is your new favorite author? Did you discover a new author this year? Something like that. And I can say that it's the same book that I've held up already, but Kristin is definitely somebody I discovered. This was the first book I read by her. And as I said, it blew me away. So this woman, just caught me by such surprise that I bought so many books by her since, and I have yet to read a lot of them. I also went to a reading by her, and she was just a very impressive woman. I made a video about that too. I don't know. she is just somebody new on my bookshelf, and I'm so excited that she's such an established author that I have many books I can now delve into, and you'll see more books by her here soon. Another question here was if you have a new fictional crush. I must say I don't really have fictional crushes, never really had. I don't really read romance, so maybe that's part of it too, but even in other genres, yeah, I didn't have anybody that I was crushing on while reading, so unfortunately no answer for that. I do, however, have an answer for the next question, which is newest favorite fictional character. My newest fictional favorite character is somebody from The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo by Stieg Larsson. It's a crime mystery thriller. And one of the characters in this book is the girl with the dragon tattoo, which is Lisbeth Salander. She is just the coolest person on the planet, and I love when a character, when sometimes for the main character the line between right and wrong blurs a little bit, and they act sometimes in a way that's maybe not the most proper, but they do it with reasons and toward people that really deserve it. So I really like that. And yeah, she's just very special. Like, all her actions take me kind of by surprise. With her, you never know what's happening next. She's super tough. And if she was a real person, I wish I could meet her. So another reason why I'm so excited for the sequel that I showed earlier. And yeah, if you don't know The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, I highly recommend this book. And Lisbeth Salander, I think you'll like her a lot. All right, the next question was a book that made you cry. What is a book that made you cry? And I've already talked enough about Kristin and The Great Alone, because that one, I mean, that just emotionally destroyed me. And I think a lot of her books are like that. So she writes very emotional books, very captivating books that I've heard about many of her other books that people have cried a lot reading them. So I'll leave her out of scope right now. And I try to think about another book that also touched me emotionally. And I think it was The Rose Code by Kate Quinn. This book for me was also a great surprise. It takes place during the Second World War, and we're in England and follow the fate of 3 women who support the military by like breaking German military code. So a very secret organization, and they're like involved in breaking these codes, and it's just a different world that they live in. And it was very fascinating for me to read about these women, to see how they developed. I loved the characters too. So if it wasn't for Lisbeth Salander, I could have probably found another favorite character in this book. But yeah, it made me cry. That is the question I'm talking about now. It made me cry at some point because one of the fates of these women's just took a turn that I didn't expect, and I really felt for her. So this is what I picked for this question. Definitely can recommend this book if you like historical fiction. It was a great one. Now we've talked about crying, so we also have to talk about the other end of the spectrum, a book that made you happy. And so there's one author in particular that I think about right away when I think of books that make me happy, and it is TJ Klune. I don't know, he just writes stories that, I feel like at home when I read them. I feel like everything is good in the world. I don't know, he just brings that out in me, this feeling. And so this year I read Under the Whispering Door. I thought it was a good book. I didn't think it was as good as The House in the Cerulean Sea, but nonetheless a feel-good story, which is kind of crazy because it deals with death and grief and suicide even, but somehow he still managed to make me feel like I'm wrapped in a warm blanket. And so he writes fantasy, by the way, which is a genre that I don't read so much, but whenever TJ Klune brings out another book, I have to pick it up. All right, we're down to the second to last question, and this one is, what is the most beautiful book that you've hauled or bought this year? So I took a look at my shelf, I took a look at my book haul videos for this year, and I have 2 books that I want to show. One of them is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin, a book that has been all over BookTube, all over Bookstagram, and has been reviewed very highly. And I also thought it was a great book. I think I gave it like 5 stars actually. And yeah, I really love this cover. So the book is about two friends and we follow their friendship over time, and two of them love playing video games. At some point they develop their own game, and this game becomes a blockbuster. They become rich, they become successful, but it also changes their friendship, the dynamics, the people they meet change the friendship dynamic. And so yeah, it's about the two of them and how their friendship evolves over time. And so I think one of the questions in this book was, what if the most important person in your life is not your partner or your children, but your friend? So I thought it was a beautiful book, and I just thought this cover was perfect for like the video game, like this retro writing, and I love the wave. It reflects the story of the video game and how I imagined the video game, so love it. I love the colors here, so that was one I wanted to show. And then the other one is My Sister the Serial Killer. I just hauled this the other week, and I don't know, the title to me is fantastic. I think it was perfectly chosen. It says so much in just like these few words. And then I never really like people actually on the cover, or like portraits of people, but for some reason in this case I love it. I love how it looks like. I love how you can see the knife in like the sunglasses. I'm assuming that this is the sister and she is, you know, holding the knife. And yeah, I've yet to read it, but I cannot wait for this one. All right, so that brings us to the last question here on the list, and that is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? So at the beginning of the year, I set myself a challenge, which was to read all the books on my TBR. So I want to read this year, all the books that I had on my bookshelf in 2022, to not have any old books on my shelf by the end of the year. So this is my challenge. So I have quite a few left from that challenge. I think about 12. So those 12 are definitely on my to-do list for the rest of the year. And I'm going to make a separate video about those two actually, because I wanted to go over them and kind of give an update to see where I'm at. I also definitely want to read another Kristin book, at least one more. I just finished Firefly Lane, but on top of that, I want to read one more because I've talked so much about her. So I really need to follow with some action and read some more books by her. I also would love to read some more Stephen King before the year is over. For me, at the end of the year, when it's like the days become shorter, it gets darker outside again, his books are like perfect for that time. So that's another one I have on my list here. So yeah, those are all the books I have picked. As I said, I'll make another video about the ones on my TBR, so you should see that soon. And yeah, that's all from me for now. I hope it was interesting. For me, it was certainly cool to go through my books and really think about them and pick one for each of these questions. That was a lot of fun. I hope you had fun too, and as always, stay safe, stay healthy, and see you next time. Bye bye.